Stocks on Wall Street surging Thursday, led by tech stocks, which have begun outperforming value stocks again. Well, let's discuss value stocks with Kevin Holt. He's Chief Investment Officer at US Value Equities. Welcome, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Now, before we get to value stocks, I want to ask you quickly, the buzz of the market is all about GameStop, AMC shares. They're dropping today after some trading platforms put some restrictions on trading of those heavily shorted social media driven stocks. What impact do you think this will have on the broader markets?
Yeah, I think it's a little symptomatic of where we've been. I mean, some of the trading in some of these very low price stocks, that have questionable business models is pretty troubling at this point in time. So, the action has been immense. A lot of times things like this are a sign of a market top. We'll just have to wait and see. But it seems like regulators are stepping in, trying to get some control over this. So hopefully things calm down over the next week or so.
Yeah, right now we've got stocks surging today on the overall broader markets, but we've got some of these stocks such as AMC and GameStop falling. There was a worry that it could prompt a wider sell-off by forcing hedge funds to sell stocks in order to raise cash to cover their positions. But do you think that's sort of out for now?
I mean, it's always very difficult to tell. But if there would force liquidations in the market, that would create downward pressure. Again, I think it'll probably work itself out over the next week or so. I think the rule here is make sure you know what you're investing in. Invest in solid companies with solid cash flow and balance sheets.
All right, now. Kevin, back to your specialty, value stocks. Now, since the fall, we've seen that rotation away from growth and tech stocks over to value stocks. But over the last week or two, we've started to see the reverse, where tech stocks have come back to the fore. What needs to happen to bring the momentum back and permanently to value stocks?
Yeah, so I think obviously growth has had a multi-year run-in with COVID virus. Also, all working out of our houses, technology. Market became very narrow last year, as we all know. I think what people are looking to is, vaccinations, and as vaccinations start to get more predominant in the U.S. and globally, that things will open back up, and that cyclical areas of the company or economy, and what was hit last year, travel stocks, energy stocks, bank stocks, that's where the predominant negative earnings revisions were last year. Those are traditionally more value-oriented sectors. So I think as we get closer to vaccinations being broadly disseminated, then we open up. I think that's what people are looking for. I think we've had a little pullback in the last week or so. You had President Biden come in. His inauguration was about a week ago, and as we look at that, he talked a lot about COVID at first, which I think is good. So let's get the vaccine out there. Let's try to broadly disseminate it. I think some of the issues, he hasn't really talked about the economy yet. And I think in the last week or so, people are a little concerned about, well, what about jobs? What about the economy? I think as he broadens his message from COVID, and frankly, from the climate, which is important, but I think people are more worried about jobs given where we're at today.
So do you see this outperformance by tech just being a blip right now and reverting back to value for the rest of the year, for the better part of the year?
I think there's a good chance. I think a lot of it hinges on, will there be a stimulus plan approved by Congress? I think there will be. The question is it 1.9? Is it 1.7? There's going to be a stimulus plan. I think that will hopefully, continue to, I want to say, underwrite the economy until we get to this summer, when hopefully we're getting further past COVID and things normalize.
And lastly, Kevin, we've seen a good run in value stocks, especially in the fall. Are there any particular sectors, areas, or particular issues that you think are still relatively undervalued that still have a lot of room to run?
Yeah, I would say I would point to energy. I think just because last year we had negative oil prices, which is something we've never seen, and doesn't make a lot of sense. But because of, you said, a lot of the trading that's going on today in the market, that same thing happened last year with oil. So they're coming off a really low base. I think the industry is, they're pulling back on investment. They're generating free cash flow, giving it back to shareholders. I think in the travel-oriented stocks, I think are the two areas that I would really look for. To be good areas of the market over the next 6 to 12 months.
All right. Thank you for those thoughts, Kevin. Our thanks to Kevin Holt of US Value Equities. I'm Fred Katayama in New York. This is Reuters.